Look closer. Look closer. Look closer. The secret is not in the left image, not in the right one. It appears between them.
Chapter 1. The room that looks private.
The stereoscope often places the woman inside a room. Not always a bedroom, not always a boudoir. Sometimes only a parlor, a garden corner, a chair near a window, a hammock, a table, a curtain, a mirror, a plant, a glass in the hand. Nothing here needs to be openly indecent. The scene can remain respectable, the dress can remain proper, the gesture can remain controlled, and still the image begins to feel private. That privacy is not accidental, it is built. A curtain softens the room, a chair gives the body a place, a table creates nearness, a window suggests interior life, a mirror doubles the act of looking. A glass, a book, a fan, a flower. Each object gives the woman something to hold and gives the viewer a reason to stay. This is not documentary privacy. We are not seeing a private moment that happened to be photographed. We are seeing privacy arranged as a scene. The woman is placed. The furniture is placed. The props are placed. The room itself becomes a kind of argument. It says, "This is not the street. This is not the public square. This is not a stage. This is somewhere closer." But the closeness is manufactured, and the stereoscope makes that manufacture more powerful. In an ordinary photograph, the room remains flat. In a stereograph, the objects begin to separate. The chair comes forward, the curtain falls back. The table occupies the space between the viewer and the woman. The room seems to open. The viewer is not simply looking at a woman in an interior. The viewer is looking into an interior. That difference matters, because the woman now appears not only visible, but accessible through space. The image does not have to undress her. It only has to place her in a room that feels private enough. A room made for looking. A room that promises intimacy while remaining safe enough to collect, to sell, to hold in the hand, and to bring close to the face. The room looks private, but its privacy has been prepared for the viewer.
Chapter 2. Almost dressed.
There is a moment before the public body is complete, before the dress is fastened, before the hair is arranged, before the stocking is hidden, before the corset disappears beneath the outer layer. Stereoscopic photographs return to this threshold again and again. A woman adjusts her clothing. Another woman helps with a corset. A hand reaches toward a mirror. A shoe is being fixed. A stocking is being pulled into place. Hair is lifted, pinned, or touched. These are not simply scenes of dressing. They are scenes of almost being dressed. And that almost matters. The woman is not shown as fully public. She is not yet ready for the street, the visit, the theater, the parlor, the social gaze. But she is also no longer hidden. The image catches her in between, not naked, not dressed, not entirely private, not yet public. This is one of the most charged positions in the archive, because the viewer is not only looking at a body, the viewer is looking at a transition. A corset is not just an object of clothing. It is a device that shapes the body before the world is allowed to see it. A stocking is not just fabric. It marks the line between exposure and completion. A mirror is not just furniture. It turns preparation into performance. In these images, dressing becomes visible as an event. The room becomes a backstage. The body becomes a process. Femininity appears not as a finished surface, but as something being assembled. We should be careful here. These are not stolen moments. They are staged. The women know the camera is there. The pose is arranged. The room is composed. The gesture is held long enough to become an image. But staging does not make the threshold less important. It makes it clearer. The stereoscope gives this threshold depth. The chair, the mirror, the helper, the curtain, the body, they separate into space. The viewer seems to stand inside the room where preparation is taking place. That is the quiet power of these images. They do not always show everything. They show the moment before everything is covered. The moment when the public image of the woman is still unfinished, almost dressed, and therefore almost available to view before the world is supposed to see her.
Chapter 3. The joke that permits looking.
Desire does not always enter the stereoscope as beauty. Sometimes it enters as a joke. A woman in divided skirts, a man on the floor.
Hosenrock.
Not quite a skirt. Not quite trousers.
A broom raised at the doorway. A body placed in the wrong position. A courtship scene pushed slightly too far. A domestic room turned into a small theater of embarrassment. These images are comic, but the comedy is not innocent. It gives the viewer permission to look at what might otherwise feel too direct. A leg lifted, a hand held, a body bent forward. A woman refusing, laughing, commanding, or taking up more space than expected. The joke makes the scene acceptable. It says, "This is not desire. This is only play. This is only a misunderstanding. This is only a domestic quarrel. This is only a modern woman behaving badly." But the eye has already been invited. Many of these cards are built around reversal. The man loses control. The woman takes the active position. The polite room becomes unstable. Clothing becomes a gag. Marriage becomes chaos. Flirtation becomes a struggle between invitation and refusal. The stereoscope intensifies the joke because it gives the gag a body in space. A foot comes forward. A chair tilts into depth. A man falls toward the viewer. The room no longer feels like a flat illustration. It feels like a small stage with the viewer seated very close. This is where stereoscopic photography begins to feel almost cinematic. Before cinema moved bodies, stereographs were already arranging them into frozen scenes. Setup, gesture, reaction, punchline. The image does not move, but it implies what happened just before and what might happen next. That is why these comic cards matter. They show how the stereoscope could sell transgression safely, not by removing rules, but by disguising their breaking as entertainment. The woman is not always exposed through undress. Sometimes she is exposed through the joke, through posture, through reversal, through the moment when proper order slips and looking becomes permissible.
For more ways of looking, subscribe to Reading Frames.